Good evening and welcome back to Cannon Chatter TV. I'm G Talks Arsenal, your host this evening, and welcome to our second episode of Three Lions Road to Wembley. I'm joined by the one and only Cannon Chatter TV member, the lovely Lottie. How are you doing, Lottie?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all good. I'm just a bit underwhelmed by that game, as we were just talking about off air. But other than that, I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Obviously watched the game. As you can tell, we're not bothered by having beer and Coke on our table, so we're just going to leave them right there tonight. Feel like I've only had literally 1.5 ciders, but it was one of those where I had in the back of my mind that, obviously we're going to do this live, so I kind of took it easy. But I think throughout the game, and obviously after the result, probably after this live, I'll probably have something a little bit stronger. But yeah, so we're literally gonna, we're gonna discuss obviously the game, the result, the ramifications in terms of England progressing into the latter stages of the competition. Just want to say a massive hello to everybody who has tuned in, who is watching, particularly obviously because it's straight after the game. But before we kind of get into it, I'm just going to run the intro video and then we'll get started.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's
So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's like, it's one of those where we've never really done a show like this, like kind of gone live straight after a game. So it's almost like, I don't know about you, but as much as I'd kind of prepared for it, I kind of felt like really unprepared, because it's almost like I've not had time to kind of digest, the result as such. So yeah, I think the best place probably to obviously start is with the lineup. So I'll bring that up now, and then we can kind of just get started from there.
Sounds
so it is a little bit small. I'm gonna zoom in so that you can see. But what I will do is I will take you kind of through it. I will start with obviously we had Pickford in goal, which was to be expected. We had a back four of James, Stones, Mings, and Shaw. We had a midfield three of Phillips, Rice, and Mount. And we had a front three of Foden, Kane, and Sterling. So obviously this came out, I think it was probably about an hour and a half before the kickoff. What did you make of the lineup?
Oh, again, he's gone with his favourites. Kane, Sterling. I'm not surprised Stones and Mings are in the back in the mid, in the middle at the back. Sorry about that. Just don't know what happened with my words there. I actually haven't had a drink tonight, so that is not good. Other than that, I was quite happy with it. I was expecting Sterling's confidence to be a lot higher, for him to be a lot more involved, but he was Mr. Invisible tonight. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
Kane as well. He was playing deep with nobody in front of him. He's not playing for Spurs. You're playing for England. Can we get that straight?
Yeah. Go on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Other than that, I was really pleased with Foden until he was taken off. Don't understand why he was taken off.
Yeah. So the lineup for me, it's a frustrating one. Because I've said this kind of, privately to you guys. I even said it to Keith the other day. I know Keith just said hello, so good evening, Keith. Or he actually said, "What's up?" I think he's had a couple of bevies. So wherever you're doing, wherever you are, Keith, have a good evening. But yeah, so for me, I've said privately that I'm not the biggest fan of Southgate. I might get a little bit of stick for this. I don't know if I will, but I never really rated him as a player personally. And I just kind of feel like, especially on the international scene, it's almost like managers don't really have to have a huge amount of experience. It's almost like nationality is kind of like, a big thing,
It's like a credit.
that's almost like, yeah, your credit, you've played for your country, so you can manage the national side. And I'm not his biggest fan, and I honestly don't feel as though he gets the best out of this group of players. I feel like we're blessed with, a very good number of really good and some potentially world-class forward players. And I just don't see the chemistry. I don't see the coaching. I don't see the tactics. And I just, most importantly, I don't see the performance. Even in the Croatia game, even in tonight's game, I just don't see it. The one thing I was happy about is that he actually played a right back in the right back position, and he played a left back in the left back position. Other than that, I wasn't too displeased with the lineup, because I thought to myself, you know what? I thought if he threw Harry Maguire in, I would have been a little bit annoyed given how well Mings played in the first game. I think the midfield three did well against Croatia, so I'm glad that Phillips kept his place. And up front, let's face it, despite Kane having a terrible game, he was never going to get dropped. It made sense picking Sterling because obviously he got a goal in the first game, so you thought he'd continue his form. But yeah, overall, I wasn't too displeased with the starting 11. But for me, I've got to say it, and I know I keep banging on about it. And I know he did come on. I just don't understand why Jack Grealish is not playing for this England team. I don't get it.
I don't either. I mean, as I said a moment ago, why take off Foden for Grealish when we can take off Mr. Invisible Sterling and then let them run the park? I mean, Foden was everywhere. I don't understand why he was brought off. I'll be honest with you, with Southgate, in 2018, he got me believing in England again. I hadn't watched England for years, and I'd think, oh, competition, oh, here we go again. Embarrassment. But after watching 2018, it got me believing again. And now we're at this point. Yeah, I'm excited to watch them, and I'm getting this. It's like same old England. I mean, we've got so much talent. What is he doing with it?
Yeah, it's like Saka didn't even make the bench,
And Henderson did.
This is what I mean. It's like, I don't know whether it's, and like I say, I don't want to get stick for this, but I don't know whether it's, politics, behind the scenes. I don't know whether, how I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but like, I don't know how much control he has over the players in terms of what he's picking. Is there a lot of politics behind the scenes, or is it just that he doesn't really fancy some players, Saka, Grealish? I'm thinking, like, look at the seasons that these two players have had. And I'm not saying, because when you actually look at it, let's face it, Sterling played the first game, and yeah, he got the goal, we won the game. But if you actually look at the season and by merit in terms of performance, for clubs, he probably shouldn't be anywhere near the starting lineup. And, the same could probably be said for a player like Rashford. I know he came on at one point in the match, and to be honest, he didn't do anything, and I don't want to insult him because, he does a lot of great stuff, on the pitch, and I think most recently off the pitch for his community. But at the end of the day, you're representing your country. He's not had the best part of the end part of the season for United. And I just think, for me, in that position, taking off Kane, I would have brought on, the Everton boy, Calvert-Lewin, So it's a tough one with I kind of feel as though Southgate won. Like, his mindset is not an attacking or to play attractive football. He's not that type of manager. I feel like he's more like, let's work from the back first. If we can pick up a point, if we can defend well, that's kind of priority. But I just feel like right now England's strengths are going forward, but he doesn't seem to get the best out of these attacking players. Because we haven't even spoken about like Sancho, Saka, Grealish.
I feel like Sancho's almost been forgotten.
Yeah.
I mean, we sit here and moan about not seeing Saka. I mean, what about Sancho? He's just he's completely off the radar. Was he on the bench tonight? He was, wasn't he? No.
Sancho.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm not even sure if he was on the bench, because leading up to the lineups, I saw the lineups, but I didn't even see. I found out through Twitter that Saka wasn't even part of the squad, which for me is insane given the season that he's had. Obviously, from an Arsenal perspective, I'm thinking, well, it's good that he's getting that rest and then not overplaying him. But at the same time, he's an amazing option to have, on the bench. So it's just a bit crazy. But like Ryan said, good evening, Ryan. Southgate has England playing, worse than Burnley. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I think I think tonight I was really hoping for Saka to start. I would have loved to see him going up against Turney.
Yeah,
It was so hard not to sit there and tweet. I mean, you've seen my tweets when Turney is having a great game.
yeah.
I was sitting there, I was like, I can't tweet anything about him. He's playing for Scotland, but he had a blinding game. And for me, I think the one person that would have caused him problems would have been Saka.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously Ryan, again, I think, what Keith said just there, I think, Sterling is definitely one of those players that he really does divide opinion. I think he's kind of received that criticism from the get-go of his career, really. He's always been a player that gets into threatening positions. He's always been a player that's got great movement, but he's never been the most clinical. And it always, I think it's part of his game that has improved, but in terms of his end product, it's not the best. And I'm not sure if, obviously he's kind of in his prime now. I'm not sure that's ever going to be better than what it is, really. It's kind of going to be 50-50 throughout his career now.
No, definitely. But the thing is with him, he's as far as England are concerned, he's Mr. Reliable. 13 out of 18 games now he's scored. I mean, as Keith just said, no end product. I'm usually preaching that throughout an England game. Yeah. And he usually shuts me up. But this time he didn't. So he just vanished.
Yeah,
he just vanished. I mean, me and Keith were having a bit of banter about it as well throughout the game.
And just this point here, Ryan, again, that's something I didn't notice. So thank you for raising that, Ryan. But, the fact that we've got two goalkeepers on the bench, when you've got somebody like Saka who, could have easily taken one of those spots. So it's just, for me, I've never been a fan of Southgate, and I wasn't completely convinced by the Croatia performance, but tonight's performance really kind of just hit the nail on the head for me, and kind of, drummed in that kind of, those doubts with regards, his leadership of the team, because I'm not massively impressed. And there you go, Stephen's with us. Good evening, Stephen. It'd be interested to see what you made of that game and that result. I'm sure we'll catch up after the show. But yeah, if we move on, obviously, from the lineup, and obviously, to be fair, even though it was a 0-0 draw, there were loads of incidents. In terms of, when I say incidents, I mean in terms of chances. And I'm not sure if we should kind of go through kind of all of the ins and outs of the chances. And I think it's probably better to just kind of sum it up in terms of a performance. So, looking at the 90 minutes and looking at the chances, and I'll just remind you of some of the chances. So, John Stones had a free header on the 11th minute. On the 12th minute, you had Sterling, who nipped the ball away from the Scots. He played it into the middle, and I think it was Mount. He missed a sitter from about 5 or 6 yards out. We had... So if we just stick with those two for now, what is the problem? And why are we not putting away these chances? And is this going to cost us in this competition?
Do you know what? With Stones, I really wish that had gone in. I mean, he has so many... This is going to sound really weird, but he has so many bozo moments on the international field.
Yeah.
He needs something positive in his bank to kind of shut England fans up.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm actually holding my hand up to that. I'm one of them.
yeah.
But he just has... And as for Mount, I haven't watched him enough to see what he's like with shooting on goal at Chelsea. I mean, obviously, I've seen him when he comes up against us, but I don't go out my way to watch Chelsea. So for him at that point, and the fact that he's 22 is it's great that he's trying, but it would be nice if there was an end product on it.
Do you think it's a case of England have, because I'm looking at the squad and I'm looking at the lineup and I'm looking at the performance, and I'm seeing that, one, I think is clear, Southgate is not getting the best out of these very technically gifted players, in my opinion. Because I know we were having this debate with Stephen the other night about how good the England squad is in comparison to other nations. But do you think it's almost as if they're technically very good, but other than Kane, who's had an awful tournament so far, we don't have anybody clinical? Because we've got Sterling, whose end product is not the best. You've got Foden, and then we're kind of relying on, the youngsters in terms of Mount, even if you were to bring on Sancho and Saka, we've even said as Arsenal fans this season that one thing about Saka, which he can improve in his game, is the fact that, you know, getting goals. So is it a fact that this England side doesn't have enough goals in it when particularly Kane is not on form?
I think it's also down to experience. I completely agree with what you just said, but it's also down to experience. If you look at the age groups, most of these guys are either like late teens, early 20s, and then you've got players like Kane who's 27, etc. And there's just not. I think they're a bit imbalanced, like Arsenal are at the moment. Sorry, guys, I'm putting my Arsenal hat on again, because as we know, we said the other night, our team averages on at age 20 as an age average, and we need some more players that have the experience. I mean, Saka's carried us this season, and I'm kind of relieved he wasn't on that bench as well. I know this is really bad for me to say because I want him to see him play for us, but he needs a rest. He really does need a rest.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like I said, I feel as though even though we're blessed with, you know, all of these NDB30 TV saying Southgate is like Arteta, elaborate, give us a little bit of context to that comment, and a little shout out, good evening. But yeah, I think, you know, even though we're really blessed with quite a few offensive players, like you said, there seems to be a bit of an imbalance. Quite a few of them are quite young, and I feel like out of the attacking offensive players that we've got in the squad, they're not on form. So for me, Kane is, you know, as much as we dig him out in the season because he plays for Spurs, at the end of the day, we've got our England hats on now. And ultimately, if we're going to progress in this competition, we need him to find his shooting boots, because, you know, easily he's our best forward. He's our most clinical forward. He's our best forward. And we need him, you know, in and around the goal. So the fact that we've played two teams, not the most two impressive teams either in the competition, and he hasn't even looked like he's anywhere near going to get a goal. It's not even like he's had chances. He just doesn't even look like he's going to score. And then, you know, we elaborated on the whole issue of Rashford, where he's not had a great season. I think against Villarreal or some of the latter games of the season, even Manchester United fans were honest enough to say, you know, he's been playing awful. So it is a worry for me. You know, I kind of thought like getting goals would not have been an issue in this tournament. But when we actually think about the Croatia game, okay, we got a nice goal against Croatia. You know, Phillips and Sterling linking up, but you know, we created chances tonight, but we didn't really look like we were going to score at any point. And you know, let's face it, no disrespect to the Scots, but they're not, like you were saying to me off air, they're not massively highly ranked. So we should really, whether it's, you know, the old enemy, it's a derby game, we should be putting away teams like that. So it definitely is a bit of a concern. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was there was a penalty shout. I believe it was in the 78th minute. Now, I think Sterling kind of burst into the box. He didn't really look like he was going anywhere. And a challenge came in and he went down. VAR, I wasn't informed. I watched the match like you guys. I don't think VAR checked it. I don't think they looked at it. What were your thoughts on that penalty shout or potential penalty shout?
It wasn't a penalty. I mean, looking back at this, I can understand why the ref said no. I'm probably going to get stick for this, but I don't think it was. Looking at the replay, literally, it was maybe about that much of a touch, and then he went down like a sack of potatoes. But no, it wasn't a penalty for me. Looking at the replays and things, it was worth a try though.
Yeah, definitely.
It was worth a try.
You know what? There was contact. Do you know what I mean? There was contact.
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad.
Yeah, I think when you look at the
me.
whole kind of context in terms of where Sterling was going, the way obviously where the contact was made and the way he went down, I think for me, obviously, given the fact that we're watching it, we want England to progress. But I think at that stage, given the performance of both teams, I think it would have been really harsh, and I think it would have been a soft penalty, to kind of give away. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of these comments. Keep them coming in, guys. So I think if Southgate played Saka, the Saka we will get back will be tainted.
That's your
Saka.
that is your context you asked for.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm guessing Arsenal fans are quite happy with seeing Saka, on the sidelines on the bench. And you know what? I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just looking at it from an England perspective. And if I was the England manager, not thinking about Arsenal, I'm just looking at it and just thinking this kid's had an amazing season, and I just think, would I not want him as an option? For me, it would definitely be an option.
Oh no, definitely agree. Completely agree with that. I mean, there's from what I'm seeing, I'm quite happy to have Kane in the middle,
Yeah.
but I want to really see is Foden and Grealish.
Yeah.
These guys can switch sides and they can go wherever they want, and I think that will be a huge weapon for us in the way we play. I mean, we saw again. I'm going to preach to the choir about Foden again. I mean, we saw his performance. I mean, he was back helping Mings. He was back helping James. I mean, even James had a decent shot tonight, and it was his first game. I was kind of had a weird feeling about it because I was disappointed Trippier hadn't been selected.
Yeah.
Hang on. Yeah. Ignore that. I mean, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, sure had been selected. But I like him as a fullback. He's so intelligent in the way he plays, and he's just brilliant.
Yeah, you know what? I looking at the two performances, I don't have much issues with the defense. The goalkeeper, the back four. I think Pickford pulled off a brilliant save. I can't remember actually. I wrote some of it down. I can't actually remember when it was, but boy,
was it the one where he dived on the floor and his big hand? I called him Jordan Big Hand.
Yeah,
Pickford
I know
at
it
that
was
point.
the Scottish player O'Donnell who hit a lovely strike.
Nice.
And obviously, he hadn't had to do much in the game, but he got a real solid hand behind it, and that could have easily been 1-0. So we're big to criticize him when he doesn't do well, but no, that was a top draw save.
No, I was sitting there like that at the screen.
Yeah.
I couldn't look.
Definitely.
Couldn't look at that point. It was just like, oh my god.
Definitely. So NDB30 TV says Southgate does not pick the best 11 and has his favourites, makes late substitutions, plays safe, wrong tactics, English Arteta. I agree with the vast majority of that. I said, I've made it no secret. I'm not his biggest fan. And I do think a lot of what you said there is correct with regards, how he picks the team. And I'm just not sure, I've never really been sure with the England setup, just in terms of how much, kind of autonomy that the manager gets. Is there a lot of politics behind the scene where certain players that play for certain clubs, or big personalities? I've never been sure how it all works, but no, I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying. In terms of being the English Arteta, well, I'll kind of let you guys decide on that one.
I think we might have to get a poll up.
Yeah, we might have to get a poll out. We might have to. Sterling's outer foot was stepped on, but he did go down easy. Yeah, so it's one of those ones where I think it could have been a penalty. If it was given, yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those. We've got Ryan again here. So was Kane just poor, or is it the system? Grealish bench, 2 DMs, and where were the overlaps, etc., from the fullbacks?
I saw James doing a lot of that. If I'm honest with you, I don't know if you did, Ryan. I mean, Kane doesn't look fit. I don't know what you think. Well, he just doesn't look fit. He looks tired.
Yeah.
I mean, he keeps slipping back to the midfield. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not playing for Tottenham. You're covered. Go forward.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that. I think, he got a lot of credit. I think particularly in the early part of the season where he was dropping deep, picking up the ball for Spurs. And he was putting on a lot of assists, for particularly Son, up top. So, but I just feel like within this England setup, we've got the players, who can drop deep, pick up the ball, run with it, go past the man, ping it in across. We need him in and around that 6-yard box. We don't need him to really drop deep. If anything, we just need him to stay up top, hold up the ball, play, back to goal, etc. Get in there when the crosses are coming in. But it's not quite clicking for him, at the moment. And I think that's one of the reasons why, England are not really getting the goals. Georgina here. He needs to let go of his favourites and accept others are more talented it's holding us back, definitely. And we've touched upon that, quite a lot. I think we're all on the same wavelength in terms of in terms of Southgate's not actually picking the best players, or maybe not even so the best players, but the best combinations, or the players that are in the best form. Last one before we move on. On the bench, Grealish subbed in, Rashford subbed in, Sancho, Calvert-Lewin, Bellingham, and 3 subs unused, 0-0 match. So yeah, again, it's what it seems like is that there's a lot of criticism of Southgate. Do you think that's fair? Do you think the players deserve more criticism after that performance?
I think it's down to both. I say this with Arsenal reference again. I say this to Arteta and Arsenal. It's down to both of them. You can't blame one or the other. I mean, we were just so flat and it was so underwhelming. Like, I've tried to be positive with them, but I'm really struggling here. Yeah. I mean, once I've had some time to digest it, I mean, I can, but I'm just really struggling to see anything positive from this game, apart from the fact we drew and we've got a point out of it.
Do you think we struggled with the physical aspect of the game? Because obviously the Scots came out fast. I think, within the first 30 seconds, I think one of them clattered. I think it was Shaw. Two players went up in the air and he literally got clattered and fell to the ground. I think that was within the first 30 seconds. And it was definitely a really physical game. Do you think England struggled with the physical side of things?
If I'm honest, they should have expected it. I mean, there was more on the line than points tonight. It was pride. I mean, it's that age-old 114 game battle. I mean, I believe this is only the 4th draw out of those 114. So it's just there's more on the line than just going through to the round of 16. And I don't think they got that. And I definitely don't think Southgate understands that either.
Yeah. Yeah, no, completely. No, I completely understand that. And, I think a lot of the time football is not, it's not just about the technical side of it and the tactics. And so obviously those things are really, really important. But what struck me was that the Scots just seemed up for it. They just seemed up for it. Like, what's clear is that England are a better side. Let's not mix our words, or beat around the bush. England are a better team, but I just feel as though the Scots actually approached the game in a better vein, with a better attitude, and what they lacked in terms of quality, they made up for in terms of effort, in terms of passion. And to be fair, I think the last thing we'll kind of touch on until we kind of move on is, they could have easily won this game. If I just kind of summarize, like within the first 4 minutes, Shea Adams had a shot on goal, about 5 or 6 yards out. On the 29th minute, Tierney brilliantly turned his man, put a cross in, and I think it was O'Donnell, as we spoke about, putting that volley or half volley that Pickford turned away. We had one cleared off the line on the 61st minute. I think Mings might have cleared it off the line. And I think late in the match on the 77th minute, an opportunity dropped to Shea Adams and he volleyed it horribly wide. So when we look at those kind of 5 or 6 chances, would you say the Scots were unlucky to not get the win? Or would you say 0-0 was a fair result?
No, they were unlucky. I mean, I think the clearance that you referred to was actually Reece James. Sorry, I don't mean to correct you.
No worries. No worries.
It was one of the highlights of the game because he just came out. I didn't even see him in the box. And he just came out of nowhere, and it was like, oh my God, thank God for that. But no, they were unlucky. They should have won it. Honestly, I'm not confident in this team anymore at all. I'll probably have time to think about it and then sort of process it a bit more and change my mind. But at this point, definitely. No. Okay. No, they should have won. I mean, they're third ranked from the bottom in the whole competition.
Mm-hmm. And these were these were chances. These weren't half chances as well. Exactly. These were really, really good clear-cut chances. And again, obviously, we've got there. It seems as though the blame, people are kind of, not necessarily the blame, but people are definitely scrutinizing Southgate, I would say, more than the players. And that's how I felt before the game. That's how I felt since watching the game. I might feel differently tomorrow, but right now that kind of is my gut instinct. It was like watching bloody Arsenal from last season.
Jay.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I didn't even read that before I put it up. So, yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I know. You know what? It did feel like that at times.
I was watching Arsenal with the backwards and the sideways, and it's just like, go forward. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all screaming, go forward
Yeah.
this season.
And the last comment here before we move on, it's England and Arsenal still is all we see on the TV. Football gods are laughing. I know, you know, if you know, it's like we're just unfortunate, aren't we? We support Arsenal at the moment.
Look at it this way. At least look at it this way. At least we've got a manager, and every manager we've interviewed hasn't turned down the job. We're not Spurs.
No,
Can we just get that straight?
That is crazy, isn't it? Apologies if, you know, I know this is an England show. Apologies if there are any Spurs fans watching. Well, not really. Sorry, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. I apologise. We're meant to be England fans.
Yeah. We got England caps today.
I mean, we've been supporting Harry Kane, although he hasn't been playing great.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, given the 2 games he's had, you know, we're not up here bashing him at all. You know, we've spoken about him, you know, potentially carrying an injury. And I've said, look, at the end of the day, as England fans, if we're going to go find this competition, we need him to find his shooting boots. Because, you know, right now, this is not about Arsenal. It's not about Tottenham. It's not about United. It's about England. Yeah. So
he needs to prove why he got that golden boot.
100%. Definitely. But yeah, so we'll move on. And we're just kind of like, obviously, you know, looking at that performance, we would have hoped that we would have got a better result. I think, you know, the whole nation was geared up for it, really excited. But if you can just sum up that performance, how would you sum it up?
In one word or more? One
word, a couple of words. Maybe you have no words at this point.
The one word I am thinking right now is meh.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know how to sum it up. I mean, as I said in the first half, we were too slow. Mm-hmm. I mean, Scotland was so patient and they took their opportunities. And I mean, if we had, I know I'm going back to Foden again, but if we had Foden and Grealish on at the same time, the build-up play wouldn't be slow. Kane wouldn't be going so deep with nobody up front. Mm. I mean, there's so many things that could be tweaked up front, as well as in the middle. It just didn't work.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And we were at home. We were at home.
Yeah,
I felt like we were playing up in Scotland.
That's why I put it up. Because it was like, it just kind of, it just, you know, thanks for the comment, NDB30TV. It just kind of sums it up. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so if we kind of look ahead now, obviously this has happened. We've got 4 points on the board. It looks as though, you know, all barring a disaster, I don't even know if it's mathematically impossible, but it looks as though we're going to go through. Our next game is next Tuesday against the Czech Republic, who obviously beat Scotland 2-0 in the first game. And I believe they drew today with Croatia 1-1. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it was 1-1.
Yeah, it was 1-1. So yeah, so we've got 4 points. They've got 4 points. So obviously Scotland are still in with a shout. So it's kind of all to play for. So looking ahead to the Czech game next Tuesday, you know, what would you change first of all? I'll keep it like that first. We'll do it in stages. What would you change in terms of this England lineup for next Tuesday? Would you change anything?
I definitely wouldn't be starting Sterling. I'd get Grealish to start. I'd have Saka on that bench. I'd have one spare goalkeeper, not 2. But I think that's about it. I mean, I'm quite happy with the rest of the field, and I'm a bit concerned about Phillips. Someone said to me, "Oh, do you think his purple patch is finished?" I mean, what can you call a purple patch? He's had one good game.
Yeah, 90 minutes. Yeah.
I mean, he was reasonable. He was reasonable today, but he wasn't fantastic.
Backing you up there, said Sterling's next.
For me,
okay. So would you go back to what would you do at the fullback position? Because obviously we've now seen Trippier and who was it again in the first match?
It was Trippier and Walker. I don't want Walker anywhere near that pitch.
Okay, so who would be your fullbacks?
Oh, it was James and probably Chilwell. I'd like to see.
Okay. Would you bring Harry Maguire back in, given it's the last game of the group stage? No.
Nope. I rather stick to my bozo moments, boys, Mings and Stones.
Yeah.
They've done well. If I'm honest with you, I'm still expecting those moments. As I've discussed with Cal previously, I'm still expecting it, but they've done well. Credit's due where it's due.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Declan Rice has been kind
I
of
almost moved the Coke
missed.
thing. I just thought, oh, what am I doing? Am I Cristiano Ronaldo? It's because it's kind of in my way. I think for me, it's a hard one, you know, when I look at that side. Obviously, I think, you know, Pickford keeps his place. I think James did well at right back, and I'd be tempted to keep him there. Stones and Mings. I think I'm not Harry Maguire's biggest fan. I've got to admit it, and you know that's not just because he plays for United. I just think he's a no nonsense centre back, but I do feel as though the centre back position is where England will get found out against better teams. I don't think he's very mobile. And I think against the likes of, you know, when we'll talk about that in a few minutes, against the like of Mbappe, Ronaldo, and that lot, he's going to get really found out. And I'm not sure if Mings would do a much better job anyway. But I'd be tempted to kind of bring him in if I've got, you know, the vision to kind of play him later on in the tournament, if you know what I mean. And then I would say in the left back position, I'd probably like you. I'd probably like to see Chilwell. Just to kind of mix it up. I really don't know what I would do in midfield. It's a tough one. I'd probably have to have a little think about the midfield situation. But I think most importantly here, you know, don't waste a tweet here, is up front. I think this is where the real issue is with England. We've got, you know, a centre forward that is massively out of form for some reason. Maybe he's carrying an injury.
It's playing him deep. He looks out of playing him deep, as Don't Waste a Tweet just said.
Yeah,
I mean, stop. Not needed.
I would be tempted. I would be tempted to start Calvert-Lewin, Grealish,
I'd love
and
to see
potentially
him.
Saka. And I would switch it up completely. And I think.
Sorry, would you have Sancho on your bench?
Yeah, I would.
Yes.
I would.
Okay.
I'd have Sancho on the bench, and I'd play a front three of Calvert-Lewin, Saka, and Grealish. I think those three players would cause any opposition loads of issues. And I would just see how they played, because going forward, we look a little bit toothless at the moment, and I just think maybe we just need to mix it up a bit. Who I wouldn't put, and that's nothing personal against him, is I wouldn't start Rashford. He just doesn't look like his head's in the game at the moment. Really worried about his form. Like the latter part, obviously I wasn't too worried when he wasn't, you know, had his shooting boots on for United, but in an England shirt, he came on and he didn't impact the game at all.
He seems out of sorts as well.
Yeah, definitely.
If I'm honest.
Yeah. So we'll go through some of these comments, obviously, with regards to the lineup. So Keith, good evening, Keith. So Grealish has to start the next game. I'd go 3-5-2 as well. At least go for 2 up top. That's a really good shout. If we're sticking with Kane, he needs a foil with pace. Really good shout there. We've got anyone still think Kane is world class? He's been a shadow of himself in the last 2. And I think the fact he's hoping to get a big move away from Spurs is playing on his mind. Good evening, Mike. Really good comments there. Potentially, we've kind of discussed the potential that he might have an injury, but yeah, maybe the uncertainty of his future is playing on his mind as well.
Gee, with that one as well. I mean, if he wants to be sold, he needs to put his boots back on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he keeps playing like this, Levy ain't going to sell him, especially if they're putting 150 million price tag on him. Yeah. That's a joke.
I agree.
Absolute joke. I say at least 80 max.
NDB30 TV says Sancho and Grealish both need to start the next game. We've got Mike again. By the way, Lottie, Justin wants us to sign Grealish and he wants Tierney as captain.
I do too.
Yeah. You know me.
G's his biggest fan.
I'm like Grealish's biggest fan.
He's Grealish fanboy.
Exactly. So I totally agree with that. And I think Tierney will be Arsenal captain in. And just a quick shout out to Tierney. You know, he is on the verge of signing a new 5-year contract. So glad that's going to happen. He's going
to be our captain within the next 12 months. You heard it first.
We've got Saka's injured, I believe, hence why he wasn't even in the squad tonight. Okay, didn't know that, but thank you for the heads up. Would Ollie sit Sancho? Just asking for an English manager. I can't see many managers in the world not having him in and around the first team. The fact that we've had 2 games and he's not even made an appearance, I think is crazy, considering his numbers at Dortmund and his performances in the Bundesliga. So it's a bit of a strange one for me.
I'm quite looking forward to him to coming here. If I'm honest with you, I want to see what he does, because obviously it's 2 different kettles of fish. I want to see how quickly he settles down and see if Ole ruins him or not.
Yeah, definitely. If Levy wants to sell Kane, he must be shitting himself. Right, sorry, I just read that literally. He must be summing himself right now. Ha 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 ha. But yeah, he's maybe, you know what? Maybe I can't say it, but maybe Kane is trying to drive down the asking price, isn't it? So he can actually get a move. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm still voting for his move to PSG with Pochettino. He's going to go there if he's going to go anywhere.
Levy called Southgate and said, "Bless Kane with your magic. Thus, this is the Kane we see." Yeah. So last one right here. What happened to Calvin Phillips? Yeah. Don't know what happened to England as a whole. Do you know what I mean? I think we'll leave that one there. So moving on. Obviously, just we'll go ahead with the Czech game. Do you see us winning that game? And first of all, what do you think the result's going to be? And do you think we're qualified for the last 16 or the knockout stages?
I think we can beat Czech Republic as long as Pickford doesn't do a Marshall and come 5-10 yards away from his box and bundles into the goal. And we have, especially if we've got Schick from Slavia Prague. I absolutely can't stand him. Racist for obvious reasons.
Do you think we'll win the game?
It's possible. It's possible if they can get the fires lit, so to speak, and get the bit more drive. Yeah, and we get the right formation, we get the right players on. I think we can do it. I'm 2-1 maybe.
2-1.
2-1. And
it's going to be a close game.
First. Yeah, Foden to score first. I think it would be nice for him to finally get a goal. To be honest.
Yeah, I think right now I can't see us steamrolling any team, given the way we're playing. I think, against Croatia, I think obviously the win, I think a lot of us England fans got a bit carried away. But really, if we deep the performance, it wasn't an amazing performance. And I think against Scotland, I think we really struggled. And I think had they had better players, we probably would be looking back at a defeat right now. So I think it's going to be a close game. I might even go as far as to say it's going to be a score draw, maybe a 1-1, maybe even a 2-2. I'm not massively confident. Please do put your score predictions in the chat in the comments, and I'll put them up. The first one to come in is Mike has said, "Got to beat them. I'll take 1-0." Yeah. So I think generally, most England fans will be confident that we can beat the Czech Republic, but I think tonight's result and tonight's performance, I think, brought us all back down to earth, and just kind of gave us a little bit more perspective in terms of England's chances. And that's the last thing I kind of want to talk about tonight. So obviously, if we finish first or second, the way the competition is set up, it's like the path's already mapped out. Now we know that we're going to be playing either probably one of 3 teams, which is likely to be France, Portugal, or Germany. Now, given obviously our performances so far and what you've seen of those 3 teams, I think France, they've only, all 3 of them only played once. France got a 1-0 win against Germany, which was quite comfortable, although Germany had glimpses of a good performance. Portugal ran away against Hungary eventually with a 3-0 win, Ronaldo getting 2 of them. Do you fancy our chances against any of those 3?
Not with the group of death, no chance. We'll be out. Round 16, gone. I mean, I think our only hope is to finish second and take on Spain. I mean, Spain haven't been the same. They're missing the likes of Sergio Ramos. No. If we come second, if we come second in the group as well, we should do. If they come top, I think that's right. I hope that's right. Because I'm going to sound like
because I think the way it works is I think if we finish first, we play who comes second in the group of death. and if we finish second, we play the group winners. Correct us if we're wrong or if we're right, guys, in the chat.
I think it's Spain's group winner we play.
Oh, is it?
Second. Yeah, I think it's Spain's group winner.
Okay. So we've got a one. Yeah, go on. We've got 1-0. We've got.
For me, at the moment, from what I've seen from Spain, I mean, they're missing the likes of Sergio Ramos. There's no leadership there for me.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
No problem. Thank you for that. Thank you for confirming that. So would you fancy our chances against Spain?
Possibly, if we again tactics, players, and changes, that's going to be the key going forward. I mean, we've got so many defenders there. I don't see why not. Don't see why not. But if we do get someone from the group of death, we're out. That's it. Game over. I mean, can you imagine the likes of Mings and Stones coming up against Griezmann, Benzema, and Mbappe? They're going to destroy us at least 5-0, at least. And that's scary. It is a scary thought, but it's definitely a possibility. I think if we did get the Germans though, that would be interesting because we seem to turn up against Germany recently. I enjoy those games.
I quite fancy our chances against Germany. Yeah. I don't see them being the team. You know, obviously they've got quality, but I don't. You know, I see a team. You know, where a lot of their players, you know, are aging. A lot of the influential players. Yes, they've got, you know, Gnabry, they've got Sané, they've got some dangerous players, but England have some dangerous players. And I feel like if there ever was a time to play them where we could potentially get a result, I feel as though we could get a result against them. So they would scare me less, as you said. I think Spain and Germany would scare me less than a France or a Portugal. You know, just kind of given the fact that Portugal won it last time, Ronaldo is still an amazing player.
I still think this is his last European competition, and he's going to be out to win it.
I don't know if you saw his second goal. It was a 33 pass move, which ended.
Put it this way: I watched the last half hour of that game, and I saw all the goals, and he was just so smug. And it's like, I really want to slap you, but that was a phenomenal goal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, literally.
It's really, really difficult because I don't like him. I just don't like him. He's got a talent, but I just don't like him. His attitude's
it's crazy. It's crazy. So we've got some comments here. Realistically, with what I've seen so far in the 2 games, last 16 is our ceiling. I'd say potentially. Yeah, I think you're spot on, Keith. I think, you know, there's a high possibility, a chance that we will go home at that stage. We've got here. I also think we could beat Spain, and that's kind of backing up what Lottie said. I think, and also thank you, Mike, as well as Ryan saying Germany and Spain are both winnable games, and that's kind of backing up what we've said. I think out of all the teams we've mentioned, I would definitely say, you know, those are the 2 teams that I don't feel they are the teams of old, you know, and I feel as though we could potentially win those games. We've got Mike again here. Poland is an option as well. If they won the group ahead of Spain, I'd take Poland all day.
Do you know what? Chesney scored an own goal. I will take them. If he can score for us, I will be
Poland
happy.
All day.
I think I'd be worried about Lewandowski though. He's been quiet, and something's not right there. That's the one I'm worried about with him. Yeah,
it's almost like every team in the competition have a danger man in it. They have one player that, you know, can win a game. He will be, you know, he will be a goal threat. He hasn't really come to life at this point, but he will undoubtedly cause problems. Judge Dredd Law. Yeah, after this performance, England will get battered against France, Spain, or Germany. Southgate needs to stop this safe football style and change tactics. And Antonio, that's what we've been touching upon. I think this show has been a lot more, you know, kind of criticism aimed at Southgate and more his tactics and team selection. I'm not too convinced that Spain and Germany would batter us, but I do agree and say France would absolutely annihilate us.
Definitely.
England versus France, please no. Versus Germany, another Scotland-like match. Someone steals a match. Versus Portugal, if they return to pre-Euro form, but I don't see it. So definitely agree with all what you've said there. And lastly, I wanted to believe Southgate was being tactical, but honestly thinking after what we saw, he might have been lucky. England has the talent, but does Southgate have the tactics? And that kind of hits the nail on the head, really, in terms of this show and in terms of the reaction to this game, because we're all feeling a bit low after the result, and particularly the performance. But interestingly enough, it seems as though the criticism is more at the feet of Southgate rather than the feet of the players. So it is really interesting. Obviously tonight, guys, it is just our second episode of Three Lions Road to Wembley. We've pretty much kind of summed up the game, the performance. Obviously looking ahead against the Czech Republic, and obviously potentially if we get through to the group stage. So if you do have any more kind of comments or any things that you want to discuss, pop them in the chat now, and then obviously we are going to give you some information about what we've got coming up next week from Cannon Chatter TV. We'll run through the socials, and then we will wish you all a good evening, and then you can go off and get absolutely wasted and enjoy a lion on Saturday. But yeah, so drop any kind of comments and stuff like that, and then we will.
I've got a question for you. Who's your man of the match from England and Scotland, both teams?
Wow. I think it's a hard one, I'm literally looking at the lineup just to kind of remind myself. I really don't know. I think it's a tough one, I think for Scotland, I think there are a couple players that could have been a man of the match for them. And I think had they put away some of their chances, I think they would have been more shouts. But I think Tierney had a really good game. I think considering, coming back from injury, I think he gave everything, and probably maybe a little bit biased, but I think he had a really good game. So I think for Scotland, I'd say Tierney, and for England, it's one of those ones where I'm just really not sure. I think Foden played well. I don't think it quite worked for him in a all in an attacking sense, but I think what you get with him is just always 100%. In terms of his work ethic, tracking back, etc., etc. And I think Pickford is potentially in with a shout, just because of that save. I think that save kept us in the game. So I think if I'm gonna draw on one, it's gonna be Tierney for Scotland, and I'm gonna go with Foden for England. What about you?
I'm gonna have to go with Reece James for England. Yeah. Reece James, it's his first game. I thought he was brilliant. I mean, I know Calvin Phillips had his first game the Croatia game, and he had a great game. But I enjoy watching Reece James. And for Scotland, obviously, it's our boy, Kieran Tierney, all day long. But O'Donnell and Gilmour did have a very, very, very good game, as I can see in, I think, one of the comments from Mike as well. So it's a three-way tie for Scotland, but Reece James, all the way for me.
Definitely. And just to kind of answer your question, Mike, I think we both kind of touched upon it earlier. I do think Scotland were unlucky. I think, they approached the game. Out of the two teams, I feel like they were up for the game. They showed more effort, more passion. I think they approached it with a much better attitude. And I think had they had maybe better players or been maybe a little bit more fortunate on the night, I think, I said a little bit earlier, I think we could have been looking back at a defeat. So I think Scotland were quite unlucky in tonight's game.
No, I completely agree with you there. I mean, if you look at the pre-match interviews, Southgate was so mellow and so and I was like, come on, where's your fight? I mean, I watched this Steve Clark and said, we're going to win. His attitude was completely different. So, unlucky.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got Mike. I think Mike is saying that Pickford was man of the match.
He still makes me nervous.
I believe so. For Scotland, he's got O'Donnell and Gilmour. Southgate's tactics have Sterling playing 180 minutes. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Favourite pet.
Yeah, it's a weird one considering, again, I'll say it again, considering the season he's had. I know City have won the league, but I think even City fans would admit that, he's been overshadowed by Mahrez, De Bruyne. He's not had a great season, albeit the season before that, I think it was that season, he was on absolute fire. But not had a great season.
No end product.
Yeah. Sorry I was late. A Florida traffic is a clear sign saying torches us with different ways. Left work at 3, didn't get home to 5, caught 3 minutes of the match. No problem at all. No need to apologize. So yeah, obviously I think, you know, we've kind of summed it up in terms of the match. Not the result we wanted. But yeah, you know, we move on. So just to kind of, what we'll do is, before we kind of, you know, kind of sum everything up, if you could run through the socials for me, please, Lottie.
Yep. Okay, guys, if you want to follow us on Facebook, you can look us up on Canon Chatter, or you can come find us on Instagram, but it's Canon_Chatter. On Twitter, obviously, we're still Canon Chatter. If you want to come and follow Stephen, who's not on tonight, but I know he's in the comments, it's SD Canon Chatter. If you want to follow G, it's G Talks Arsenal. If you want to follow me, it's Lottie_B. Please remember it's 2 I's, because someone beat me to it. Make sure you subscribe, turn on that notification button, and never miss a live. And also make sure you hit that like button.
Definitely. And just to kind of, thank you for doing that, Lottie. And just to kind of give you some information about next week. So we are back on Monday for, I don't even know what episode it is now, because these rumor mill episode 6.
Yeah.
So episode 6 of the rumor mill.
No. I think it's 5.
5. Well, it's our weekly edition. Stephen will probably kill us after this. But yeah, it's our weekly edition. We are back on Monday night. I'm sure it's going to be 9 p.m. So do please look out for that. We will be advertising that, you know, over the course of the next couple of days. We'll be back, you know, going through all the kind of rumors over the last week or so. And despite the Euros, it's been crazy over the last couple of days, and even today with all the rumors. We're not going to touch upon them tonight. We will deal with them on Monday. So Monday night, make sure you tune in for the rumor mill at 9 p.m. Look out for notifications with regards to that. We are also back on Wednesday. It will definitely be myself. It will definitely be Lottie. Not sure if we're going to have any guests on, but we will be reviewing England's last game of the group stages, which is taking place on Tuesday against the Czech Republic. So lots of content coming up. Obviously, we have 2 scheduled shows for Monday next week and Wednesday next week. Just a massive thank you for all of you that have joined us tonight. You know, obviously, we've never done this before. We've never done a reaction show or a review show straight after the game. But it's been really good that we've had so many of you guys come on and put in the comments and stuff like that. So yeah, just a massive thank you. And yeah, do you want to say anything? Any last words, Lottie?
But just to quickly address Antonio's comment in the comments. We are 9 p.m. UK time, Antonio. Apologies. We know you're over the pond in Florida.
No worries. And we've got here Foden for man of the match for England. Should have stayed on. We've got, I follow all 3 of you. A pleasure to listen to this quality content. Thank you so much, Antonio. And yes, Lottie did confirm it's 9 p.m. UK time on Monday for Rumour Mill. And last but not least, Keith. Love you, Keith. Great show, you two. Sterling for man of the match, by the way. End product in it. And on that note, we will basically say goodnight. Thank you again so much for, you know, all of you guys kind of tuning in. You know, it's always an absolute pleasure, you know, doing these shows. But yeah, enjoy your, you know, Friday evening. Go crack open a beer, have a brandy, even a Malibu and pineapple, Stephen. You know, get out the Malibu, get out the pineapple juice, get a little umbrella, and do yourself a
confession. I got confession. I had that tonight. Tonight. Oh, it's beautiful.
What did you think? You see?
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Anybody, if you haven't tried Malibu and pineapple juice, try it.
You see?
You've heard it here from us.
Absolutely lovely. But yeah, on that note, obviously perfect show as always. Thank you so much for all of you for tuning in. I'm going to say good night. I'll let you finish, Lottie. Say good night to the viewers.
Good night, everybody. Have a good evening or have a good afternoon wherever you are in the world.
Take care. We'll see you on Monday.